Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to you from wherever you are tuning in from. Welcome. Here is today's news wrap up and updates from the White House as it relates to our audience in the diaspora and in Africa. Today, this morning, President Biden was joined by civil rights leaders from NAACP, Congress, members of Congress, as well as civil society leaders, as he signed a proclamation designating the Springfield 1908 race riot a national monument. The president, in his remarks, said, we cannot. I know this might not seem important to some Americans, but it is important when people walk by this area, that the area designated, you know what happened here, because it can happen again if we don't take care of ourselves and fight for this democracy. The monument, the national monument that was designated today, was the site where a group of white mob descended in the neighborhood where Black Americans lived and burned down their houses, their businesses, killing thousands of innocent Americans just for racist period and intimidation. So, as the president said, this is as people, some leaders in the U.S., for example, the governor of Florida, tried to rewrite American history, erase part of American history by banning books from African American or anything relating to DEI. The president said it is important to remember all of American history, because if we forget or ignore, we tend to repeat the same mistake again. After the meeting in the Oval Office, the leaders came out to speak to reporters and answer reporters' questions of the significance of this event and why it needs to be remembered, to be part of American history. It's already part of American history, to be written down so it doesn't happen again.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Barbara Williams Skinner and I am a co-convener of the National African American Clergy Network of denomination leaders around the country representing some 20 million members. I really praise God for the courage of President Biden helping us to see why we cannot whitewash history. And we learn from it. One writer said, those who forget their history are bound to repeat it. We don't need to repeat a riot in the hometown of a president. It was so amazing to me that most of us think the riots happened in the South, but this was in Springfield, Illinois. And it's important for us to remember that this is not about history for Black people. This is history for all Americans to say, how do we prevent this? How do we as a country right now that is so divided learn from this moment and say, we have a choice. Even in this election, we have a choice to come together or divide. And so I'm thrilled to be in the White House. I've been here for so many other occasions, not always pleasant, but to be here and to say, this is the best of who we can become. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
Today was a good day to have the recognition of the Springfield riots. History is something that we must learn from so we don't repeat. And as a result of the Springfield riots, it was the catalyst behind the creation of two groups coming together. One group who had met in 1907 in Niagara, who wanted to address the race question. And that group was W.B. Du Bois, William Moore Trotter, Ida B. Wells. And another group who had heard reports and some witnessed what had taken place. And those individuals today will be considered white, but in 1908, because race is such a social construct, if you was Irish, Italian, or Jewish, or anything other than a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you was not considered white. So those groups came together and began to talk about the need to have a national organization that was an advocacy organization. And that's the creation of the NAACP. Standing with me here today is Janai Nelson, who is the President, the Director Counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the Chairman of the NAACP National Board of Directors, and the former presidency of NAACP and now the head of the Sierra Club, Ben Jealous. So we're open for, I'm going to ask you next who are.
Thank you so much, Derek. We're honored to be here today. We were birthed through the NAACP, so this moment of recognition of the massacre in Springfield means a lot to us as well. We were founded by Thurgood Marshall in 1940, and we're the legal arm of the civil rights movement in conjunction with the NAACP, and became a wholly separate organization in 1957. But we stand today locked arms with the NAACP and all of our civil rights peers in recognizing that we are in a battle for truth and history in this country. When we are seeing our books being banned and our history being erased, a moment like today that recognizes a critical, ignominious moment in our history that led to the creation of anchor civil rights organizations that protect the rights of all Americans, we should be pleased and we should recognize how important it is to hold on to our history, to honor it, to recognize it, so that it is not repeated. It would be lost on all of us if we didn't make the connection between the massacre in Springfield and the anti-Black violence that occurs today and just was visited upon Sonia Massey a few weeks ago by police and law enforcement in Springfield. There is a direct link between the violence of the past and the violence that we experience today, which is why it is so important for us to continue to recognize and honor that history, never forget it, so that we will not be apt to repeat it. Thank you.
Chairman Leon Russell.
Thank you, Derek. I think it's the most important thing about today is that it reminds us that Derek talked about those people who came together in 1909 to form the NAACP. They did it with a call. There were 60 people in that group. 7 of them were Black, if you please. We have the same call today. We have the same issues of racism, bigotry that are out there working their way through our communities today. And so what the president did this morning by making the Springfield riot location a national monument says to us we are not going to forget our history, and we're going to let our history guide us into a better future. So we call on everybody of goodwill, and as we recognize what happened 100 years ago, to think about the fact that we are still engaged in a fight for civil rights and social justice. Our call is to join us. So thank you.
Ben Jealous.
Good afternoon. Ben Jealous, Executive Director, Sierra Club, was the 17th president of the NAACP. The Sierra Club may be the invisible ally in this monument fight and in the one in Tulsa. Our lawyers have worked with activists on the ground in the NAACP and the Sierra Club to ensure that this nation's monuments reflect the diversity of this country and its full story. Derek and I have been friends for 31 years, not just compadres in the NAACP family, and we are very excited about this victory, but also the possibility that we will get one for Black Wall Street in Tulsa. That would be the first national monument in Oklahoma, and what a fitting one. For each of us, as a son of a white man and a Black woman, this day is not just a great day for Black people, or for the civil rights movement, or even the environmental movement. This day is a great day for our country. This is the first national monument, the National Park Service registry, that is for a lynching. The National Park Service incorporating lynching sites. It's a big development that really speaks to our commitment as a nation to heal, to get beyond this moment of great division in this country and come back together.
Another separate news from that we're following today, Vice President Kamala Harris traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina, where she unveiled her economic agenda. As we know, the Vice President is the Democratic presidential nominee. Next week, she will travel to the DRC, where officially the delegates will nominate her as the DNC Democratic ticket for the 2024 election, November election, presidential election. So in economic agenda, the vice president built upon a lot of the policies, economic policy that the Biden-Harris have been working on for the past 3.5 years, including child tax credit. The vice president expanded on that, ensuring that $60,000 will be given to new parents for new first-time parents for their child tax credit, and also she planned to restore the child tax credit that the Congress refused to renew, which the president signed into law through the American Rescue Plan that gave from $300 upward to family with young children up to the age of 16 years old during the pandemic era. But Congress, despite and that money significantly improved the quality of life for a lot of family, reduced poverty, childhood poverty. But Congress decided not to renew it, and the vice president said when she's elected, as part of our economic agenda, she will be providing, she's expanding on it to 3,600 monthly check for families with young children. Also in our agenda, she promised to provide up to $25,000 for first-time home buyer. Again, this build upon some of the agenda that she's been working on, that the administration also as well has been working on in expanding home ownership to people that often that they dream of owning a home through because of racist reasons and other reasons were unattainable to them. So the vice president said part of our economic agenda is to expand that opportunity, that American dream, to as much as more American as possible. Also in our agenda, she said she will cap the prescription drug price, out-of-pocket price at $2,000 for all Americans. Currently, the policy in place right now is just for seniors that are Medicare, starting next year, that they will, their out-of-pocket expenses on drug will be capped, or out-of-pocket expenses will be capped at $2,000 starting next year. And but the vice president said she's expanding on that and expanding it to all Americans. That all the out of expenses, medical bill will be capped at drug prices will be capped at $2,000. On another story that we are paying closer attention to is the Mpox virus that have been declared a continental emergency in Africa, and the World Health Organization this week declared it as a global health emergency that need immediate response to contain the spread of the disease. Currently, the administration said they are working with the Biden-Harris administration through the Department of Health and Human Services, said they will provide up to 50,000 doses of vaccine, Mpox vaccine, to the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've also donated 15 $1 million to East and Central Africa to work on preparing and in response to this Mpox virus that are spreading to beyond DRC that started a few months ago, but have spread beyond DRC to Uganda and other Eastern Central African countries. So the administration said that we work with African Union leaders as well as leaders in the region to find an immediate response to this virus, to contain the virus, and lessen the exposure or the spread, to lessen the spread of the virus. The story that we are also following, that our audience will know about, is the ongoing peace negotiation deal talk that is underway in regarding Sudan that is taking place in Geneva this week. The administration called on the Sudanese army force to join the peace negotiation. The other part of the group, the RFS, and other leaders from including the U.S., the Egyptian leaders, as well as leaders from the Middle East and East Africa, are currently in Geneva, in Switzerland, holding this talk, and they to bring an end to this war that began 16 months ago, that displaced over 40 million people from their home and placed them in refugee camp, and also that have caused famine beyond Sudan to South Sudan. So this has significant impact in the East African region, in the East African economic, and the administration is working with partners in the region in Africa to ensure there is a peace deal between these two groups that are fighting a civil war that affects innocent civilians, especially women and girls, have been significantly impacted. The other story is the president today said he was on the phone regarding the Middle East deal to bring talking with leaders from Egypt, from Qatar, that are negotiating, as well as U.S. representatives that are negotiating this complex deal to bring an end to the crisis that began almost a year when Hamas group attacked Israel last October, and it has millions of people, at least 800,000 people have been killed. Many homes have been destroyed. Life have been upended. And so the president and his team, as well as leaders in the region, including Jordan, are trying to find bring about a ceasefire that will allow all stages to be released, and for the two parties, Israel, both on the Israeli side and the Hamas group, to accept this deal, that the three-phase deal that President Biden proposed last May, and the G7 endorsed, as well as other leaders from the world have endorsed this deal to bring an end to this crisis, ongoing war and humanitarian crisis in Israel, between Israel and Hamas, before it moved beyond, expand beyond the region to other neighboring countries. The president, as I said, next week we travel to Chicago, where to participate in the DNC convention, the Democratic National Convention, where the vice president will be elected officially, designated as the official DNC ticket, presidential ticket. Before the president boarded Marine One on the South Lawn, he walked over once he left the Oval Office to greet some of the supporters that came to the White House today to see him. And he took photos with them, and the president then walked, waved to the press and to the group before boarding Marion One, traveling home for the weekend. Uh, for the remainder of this weekend, where he will spend time with his family. Today marks the official 2 years anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act bill when the president signed the bill 2 years ago, and he has unleashed at least $265 billion in clean energy and manufacturing investment. The event where the president and vice president participated yesterday, lowering prescription drug prices, is part of the IRA bill, came out of the IRA bill as well. And through this program, there has been a lot of significant investments in the underserved community, historic investment in clean energy, as well as in removing lead and creating clean energy jobs for Black Americans that oftentimes in this neighborhood investments have been scarce for decades. As we know, our audience, we might remember this. Earlier this year or last year, the Vice President Harris traveled to Baltimore to announce new clean energy investments for the community. And we had a chance to speak to some of the people from the neighborhood that attended that event. And they said it was truly, truly an historic investment for the first time in decades for them to receive those investments to improve their community, so that we ultimately improve the quality of life for their children, for their family, for their neighborhood as well. So this wrap up the news for, as I said, for as it relates to our audience in Africa and in the African diaspora. Have a good weekend. Thank you.